So I'm going to say good evening. Is it good evening for you right now?
No, I'm actually in Los Angeles.
So good morning, the
Good
exact
morning, yeah.
opposite. Uh, how's your day going aside from having to do press and talk about yourself a lot?
You know what? Full disclosure, I hate talking about myself, which is hilarious because my job is to just literally, sell myself. But no, my morning's good. I got a sausage here, a cup of tea. I'm ready to go.
Are you in a British LA? I asked that for a reason because I find that the first time you go to Los Angeles, you wind up at the Cat and the Fiddle. Like you go to the English pubs, and then your second or third visit, if you're from London or something like that, you go, I'm going to go the exact opposite. I'm going to be the only British person here. Am I way
Yeah,
off the
no,
mark there?
no, we do go to Cat and the Fiddle. I'm actually Australian though, but the
You're
rest of the band are British.
okay. So your bio, part
Uh,
of my ignorance here, says
okay.
Kelsey's British Grit.
Well, it's who knows what people write. It's like Australian charm and British grit. Yeah. But my band are all British. The rest of them are all Brits, and my boyfriend's British. So, and we have a house in England. So I live kind of between. I'm an honorary Brit now, I guess.
Well, you all have working holiday visas.
Yes.
That's something that you have in common with the Commonwealth. So, pardon my ignorance again, and
Fine.
congrats in advance on the release of Love Made Me Do It. When did you actually finish tracking the full length?
Oh my gosh. We finished it. The last song we finished for it was I think it, well, I'm not going to say it, am I? It's not out yet, but we have a collaboration on there
Hmm.
and with Steve Stevens.
Hmm.
And I think that was the last song we finished. And it was like earlier this year, beginning of the year, kind of.
And following your social media, I'm also a big fan of Steve Stevens and Billy Idol, and you've
Mhm.
played with those fine gentlemen before, and they've influenced you. But what was the gateway to go from loving the music to actually knowing those fine human beings?
Do you know what? So a couple of years ago, we put out a cover of Alone by Heart,
Hmm.
and it it blew up online and went viral a few times and caught the attention of Steve, and he ended up tweeting it and sharing it, and then I have, Billy Idol's a huge there he is on my wall there he is on my
Yeah.
wall there. He's always been a huge inspiration of mine, particularly. So when he announced a tour, I basically DM'd Steve and I just said, hey, like, if you guys are looking for an opening act, like we would love to be considered. And then like 3 months later we got the offer. So I attribute it partly to, me having a great band and a great team and all that, but also the fact that Steve found the cover. I kind of think that was part of it, that they've just became fans from that.
I've always been a Heart fan, and I
Yeah.
find that there's a big divide between the people like the 70s stuff and the 80s stuff.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of people unfortunately look at the 80s catalog as being lightweight because they were using outside songwriters as trying to go a little more pop. But when I hear you perform alone, it really gives it new life. And this is a
Oh,
compliment.
thank you.
This isn't a backhanded thing.
No, 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 no.
When
I welcome them all,
so when you first heard that song, did you hear a certain depth in it? What was it that made you go, I can reinvent this song?
I don't know, there's like it's just a feeling, isn't it? Like music's just about what it makes you feel, and that song has always made me feel so much. And when I discovered the the beefiness and how beefy I could go with my own voice, I wanted to
Okay, yeah.
challenge myself with bigger songs, and this album is really inspired by the 80s era of rock and roll. So it just seemed fitting to like say, fuck it, I'm gonna try one of the hardest songs there is to do. And if it does well, it does well.
Well, speaking of the beefiness of your voice, I think it's very interesting how your squeal pops up, almost like how a guitarist will slide into the note. You kind of slide into the vocal note in a very interesting way. Did you early on have vocal related people go, don't do that, these are bad habits, rather than realizing you had a trademark?
First of all, I love that metaphor. That's great. I'm gonna when people troll me for it, I'm gonna be like, no, it's just like a guitar like sliding in, you know.
Yeah.
No, I've never really had people other than like, online keyboard warriors, like on a professional sense, I've never had people try and stop the quirks in my voice, which is really nice. I've actually had people encourage them more. At the beginning of my career, I had most people that I worked with were kind of trying to direct me in an Amy Winehouse direction. And she's the next Amy Winehouse. I would hear that a lot. And I love Amy Winehouse, but I wanted to find like my thing, just
Mhm.
because we had similar voices and we're little white Jewish girls with an accent and tattoos. I was like, all right, well, what what makes me me? And I just kept like exploring my vocal ability. And then those squeals and the screeches and the range, like that wasn't something I always had. I discovered it over time.
Well, another person of the Jewish faith like myself and yourself, David Lee Roth. I mean, he has his trademark squeal,
Yep.
whatever you want to call that Yelp thing. And I don't know if he realizes that he does that as much. I think it's a natural thing that happens because he's done it so much. In your case, at this point, the vocal inflections, is that just natural?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just to sing a certain way, those noises come out of me. But I think as well, like I learned how to sing from soul music, and James
Hmm.
Brown was one of my biggest inspirations. So, he is known for the squeals and the screeches and the razzle dazzle in his voice. And I think I probably inherited some of that from my, listening to him as well.
Well, another compliment, giving you that heads up right there. At this point in time, I listen to your music and I go, what can't she do? Because you can clearly do the soul thing. You could do the Mutt Lang style 80s power ballad, as we heard on the last EP. You know, when I think about your music, God Knows I've Tried has nothing to do with the Hotel Flamingo. It's
Yeah.
just so different. Uh, do you feel pressure to have a certain kind of sound, or do you treat your career like a mixtape?
That's another great metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that and a big part of this record that's coming out, like I got really sick of people telling me in my career that I had to pick one thing and then be that, because the reality is I'm not one thing. And
Mhm.
um I am soul, I am rock and roll, I am lullaby. Like I consider myself all of these things. And as a storyteller, I'm lucky enough to have a unique perspective to where however I tell the story and whatever, genre or style that we decide to tell the story, I think that it always feels cohesive because we're the ones performing it and singing it. And I don't feel pressure at all to do that. I think that there's a through line in everything that I've done in my career, like visually and
Yes.
sonically and storyteller. It's there's a through line through it all, and I get really excited to like unravel the next um the additional parts of that as we go. Like we've started writing for the next record now,
Oh,
and it's just so exciting because it's like, oh, what do we want to say and how do we want to say it in this one? It's never just like, okay, let's go in and do the exact same thing we did 2 albums ago or this album. So no, I love unraveling new parts creatively and personally. Like I love exploring that and reinventing what we're doing every time.
so in the case of your upcoming US tour, is it going to be a mix of material from all the releases, or do you go, this is our new album, you're going to listen to the new album?
And no, we'll definitely have a mix. Like there's some songs from Missing Person that we will never stop playing. Like we end every show with Liquor Store on Mars, and God knows I've tried. I know you mentioned it, but that song is it's such a it's such a it's such a meaningful song to me personally. I wrote that song in 45 minutes about 6 years ago,
Wow.
and it's one of my most honest songs. And it is definitely the song live that if you don't know us already, you'll we sell you with that song. Or we sell you with that song, yeah, whatever. We win
Yeah.
you over with that song. Couple of support tours we've done, you know, they're sitting there with their arms crossed, like,
Sure.
all right, who are these cats? Like, you know, why should we listen to them? And then we hit them with God knows, and they're like, oh, that's why, you know. So yeah, those two are just two that stand out that we will always perform. But yeah, we want to perform as much as the new record as possible as well.
Well, you mentioned the song before I could, Liquor Store in Mars. The lyrics about where to move and where to go, was that actually based in reality?
So I went through a really bad breakup, really bad death, financial identity. I was going through it all at the same time,
Oof.
early 2018. And I walked into the studio with my mate and I said, I'm gonna have to move to the moon because I can't get away from this pain that I'm feeling. And then he actually said, I've got this song title I've been wanting to write with you, Liquor Store on Mars. So yeah, and then we wrote that. And then the poem that's at the beginning of that song that we perform live, it's a story about a man that I met called Jimmy, old man Jimmy, who gave me some advice when I was going through that. I used to get up every morning and go to this little coffee shop down the road and just drink coffee and smoke cigarettes and cry. It's kind of my ritual, you know, my therapy, I guess. Anyway, this little old man was there, and he came up to me one day and we had a discussion. And so the poem is a true story, yeah. But yeah,
Wow.
it's all just stemmed from my own shit that I was going through.
Sucks that that was your 2018, but when it gives you an album or two and it leads to a fan base, you know, pros and cons on the whole.
100%, 100%. I never stop myself from like
Yeah.
feeling what I need to feel. And I was just telling my mum yesterday, I was like, because I'm really inspired. We were watching Drag Race. I was really inspired by drag. And
Yeah.
and I was telling to my mom, like, it's just such a beautiful thing to have a creative outlet to put your pain into, because who knows, I could turn to drugs or something, you know, more dangerous than art, if I didn't have that. So any chance to channel that into something, you know, creative, I'd jump at it.
Well, two quick questions and then I let you go. And
Yeah, no worries.
the first one is, all we know about you is the great music. I said it's great. You didn't say it's great. All we know about you is the great music, the tours, all that kind of stuff. What's the main hobby or passion when you don't have to get on the road, get in the studio, etc.?
Um, there's a few things I love. Cooking. I love cooking. I love food. If I want to own a diner one day. I've got a big dream there. Yeah. And poker. I love poker. Play poker a lot. I'm a very competitive person, unfortunately. I'm a terrible, terrible loser, but I'm an even worse winner. Um, and we love to host. Well, I love to host at our houses, like games nights and poker nights, but most of all, I love to win, you know. And then cars. I really like old cars. And my friends, my family, reality TV.
Well,
I'm
you
pretty,
should write down that lyric, terrible loser, but even worse winner.
yeah.
All yours. And the last question, you know, talking about all these different influences, and your bio mentions also Sex Pistols and Oasis and Bruce Springsteen and Blondie and all that. What was your first concert that you went to? Not that your parents said you got to go to this, but the one that you chose.
Do you know what? I don't remember. The first concert I ever went to, hilariously, was an Elvis impersonation concert.
Yeah.
Mum loved Elvis, and where I grew up in Australia, you know, not everyone. There's more so now people tour there, but it wasn't like everyone went to it, you know, where I grew up in Australia. But I remember being a kid and going to see an Elvis impersonator. But as a child, my theater was my like obsession. So the first theater production I ever saw was Annie, and that changed my life. But I honestly, I could not tell you what my first, like, I bought a ticket and went to a concert was. I'd be lying if I knew. But
So it
to go
wasn't.
back to your other question, yes, Oasis, Bruce Springsteen, all of them. God, I've not seen Oasis. I've not seen Blondie. I have seen Blondie. I was
Oh,
actually watched Blondie side stage last year, actually, which was electric. Even, you know, at Debbie's age now, she's still a fucking star.
mhm.
Um, And then we're going to Oasis next year, which I mourned the death of Oasis. You know, I mourned the death. I was like, I'm never going to see them live. They're done. Like, and then when they announced that tour, it was like someone came back from the dead. So I definitely can't wait for that.
Me neither. Before I let you go with Oasis, do we know who's even in the band besides Noel and Liam?
I don't know.
I don't think we
I'm
know
not
that.
sure. Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on like their Instagrams and like who's posting about it and who's not. And but no, I don't know. I just I can't wait. I've seen Liam live. I did a festival with Liam last year. But I've obviously never seen Oasis live, so I'm really excited.
Excited for you. Well, thank you for the great music. Looking forward to seeing you live in New York, and just keep up all the great work.
Oh, cool. You're coming to New York. We're gonna record a live something there. So it's gonna be
At the Gramercy.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Exclusive.
Yeah.
Paltrocast.